Hi y'all, welcome and welcome back. In this video, we'll talk about source credibility and the Raven framework. In philosophy, the strength of your argument depends directly on the quality of evidence you use. Today, we'll talk about how to tell the difference between reliable and unreliable sources, and we'll walk through the Raven method, a simple, practical tool you can use anytime you need to evaluate information. When we compose arguments, our reasoning is only as strong as the sources it rests on. If we rely on weak or biased sources, our reasoning can collapse no matter how clever our ideas might be. Philosophy requires us to dig beneath appearances, to question not only what a source says, but also how it knows what it claims. By paying attention to credibility, we avoid building arguments on shaky foundations. Instead, we ensure that our conclusions are supported by solid, trustworthy evidence. So what exactly makes a source credible? A few key features usually go together. First, author expertise. Does the person writing have relevant training, professional experience, or lived knowledge? Second, the venue. Where was this published? A peer-reviewed journal or a respected news organization has much stronger standards than a random website. Third, evidence and citations. Credible sources back up their claims with references or data you can check. Fourth, transparency and currency. Does the author explain how they know what they know, and is the information recent enough to be accurate? Finally, look at the tone and corroboration. Credible sources are professional and careful, and other reliable sources tend to confirm what they say. None of these signs alone is enough, but together they build a picture of trustworthiness. Of course, the internet makes it easy to find information, but it also makes it easy to stumble into unreliable material. Some pitfalls are obvious, like anonymous authorship or websites with no citations at all. Others are trickier. Cherry-picked evidence that only tells one side of the story, or advocacy groups presenting themselves as neutral news outlets. Predatory journals mimic real scholarship but accept anything for a fee. Language can be a clue too. If a source is full of sensational claims or emotional appeals, that's a warning sign. Outdated information can also mislead, especially in areas like technology or medicine. And in today's world, we even have to watch for AI-generated text. While it can be useful for brainstorming, it isn't a citable authority. Keeping these pitfalls in mind will help us filter out weak sources quickly. Not all sources are created equal. We can group them into three broad categories. Scholarly sources are the gold standard for academic writing. They're peer-reviewed, written by experts, and full of citations and methods. These are the best places to look for philosophical arguments and ethical theories. Popular or journalistic sources include newspapers, magazines, and opinion pieces. They're written for the general public, are often fact-checked, and are useful for providing current events or examples. They may not go into as much depth as scholarship, but they add important context. Non-credible sources like clickbait websites, conspiracy blogs, or predatory journals usually lack accountability and reliability. As a rule, avoid using these to support your arguments. They weaken your credibility instead of strengthening it. This brings us to the Raven framework, a simple but powerful way to evaluate sources. Raven is an acronym. R is for reputation. Does the author or publisher have a reliable track record? Are they respected in their field, or are they known for pushing an agenda? A is for ability to observe. Is the author in a position to actually know what they're writing about? A scientist reporting on their own experiment has a stronger ability to observe than a blogger repeating secondhand claims. V is for vested interest. Does the author stand to gain money, power, or influence if you agree with them? For example, a tobacco company arguing that cigarettes are safe has a very strong vested interest. E is for expertise. Does the author have the relevant background, education, or expertise to speak on the subject? A philosopher writing about ethics has expertise, while a celebrity giving their opinion probably does not. N is for neutrality. Is the author trying to be fair, considering multiple perspectives, or are they clearly one-sided and emotional? By asking these 5 questions, we don't just label a source as good or bad. Instead, we weigh its strengths and weaknesses. Some sources may be strong in expertise but weak in neutrality. Others may have a good reputation but a strong vested interest. Raven helps us see the whole picture before deciding how much weight to give a source in our arguments. Let's apply Raven to a real example. Imagine we're looking at a peer-reviewed article in Ethics and International Affairs written by a professor who studies global poverty. This source does very well on the Raven test. The journal has a strong reputation, the author has conducted research directly, and there's no clear vested interest. The author is an expert in ethics, and the article considers multiple perspectives. This is the kind of source that strengthens an ethics paper and gives your arguments credibility. Now, compare that to a TikTok video where an influencer claims factory farming is fine because meat is tasty. Here, the reputation is unknown, the ability to observe is almost non-existent, and the vested interest may include sponsorships. The author has no expertise in philosophy or ethics, and the claim is obviously one-sided. This source fails nearly every part of the Raven test. Including it in your paper would weaken your argument rather than strengthen it. So why does this matter so much in philosophy and especially in ethics? Ethical debates affect real lives. Questions about climate change, animal rights, or technology shape the way that we live together. If we base our reasoning on poor sources, we risk spreading misinformation, reinforcing bias, or overlooking important perspectives. Raven gives us a clear method to slow down and evaluate. It doesn't mean you can only use scholarly articles. Sometimes a journalist or activist provides crucial insight. But it does help you to judge how much weight to give those perspectives and how to balance them in your writing. Credible sources do more than just back up our claims. They make our writing more persuasive. They strengthen our credibility. Readers trust us when we rely on respected evidence. They improve our logic so that our arguments are built on logical, verifiable reasoning. They help us engage fairly with opposing views, showing that we've considered multiple perspectives. A practical tip is to use the quote sandwich. Introduce a source, present the evidence, and then connect it to your argument. A few more tips are: balance scholarly sources with reputable journalistic ones. Be precise in your citations, and don't shy away from credible counterarguments. Engaging with counterarguments directly makes your writing stronger. As we wrap up, think about a time when you trusted information too quickly and later discovered it wasn't reliable. How might the Raven framework have helped you catch the problem sooner? Remember, strong ethical arguments rest on strong sources. By using Raven, you have a clear way to separate trustworthy evidence from weak or biased claims. This is a skill you'll carry beyond this class into any context where you need to evaluate information, from news and politics to everyday decision-making. All right, y'all, that's all for now. If you're interested in more videos about philosophy and ethics, check out the videos posted on the channel. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.